What is the most powerful symbol in the world? What is the most powerful formula in the world? Today, I will teach you what that symbol is, what that formula is. But just so you know, the world's greatest minds, the world's greatest philosophers, mathematicians, scholars have been in search of this formula for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The modern academics, the modern scholars like the Einsteins, the Isaac Newtons, were in search of this formula also. But none of them discovered this formula. But I did. Alexander Ngu, the Cameroonian American philosopher. I discovered this formula. This formula goes like this: triangle, infinity, circle. This formula is the shape, the triangular shape, the infinity shape, and the circle shape. This simple formula explains everything in the universe. It explains everything in nature. This is the formula for truth. So I'm sure you've heard of people speak of the truth. What is the truth? This is the formula of truth. If you were to represent truth symbolically, it would be the triangle shape, the infinity shape, and the circle shape. In future videos, I will explain further how this simple formula explains everything in nature, how this simple symbol explains everything in the universe. But today I'll give you a brief summary. So imagine it like this: we have been in search of the language of the universe. What is the fundamental language of the universe? What is the language that programs our reality, that programs our universe, that programs nature? What is the language that gives the rules for the way humans behave, the way that systems in nature behave, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom? What are the rules that govern the celestial world, the planets, the galaxies, the stars? When we observe the universe, when we observe nature, when we observe reality, there is motion, there is movement, there is action, there is interactions. What is governing that interaction at all scales? Not just humans, but all scales. And that's the language that we've been in search of. And that language is transformation. The transformations that we observe at the human scale are the same transformations happening at every scale. Everything is going through transformations, from the infinitely small to the infinitely large. So the question is, how do we represent this general transformation that is happening in the universe? And the answer is the formula, the symbol, triangle, infinity, circle. It represents the transformation of the infinitely small, the infinitely complex, as it transforms into the infinitely large. For example, imagine a fetus. Every adult began as an egg, a tiny, minuscule egg, and they became a fetus. They go through more transformations and they became a child. And then they transformed even further into an adult. And then they transformed even further and they died. So something so minuscule transformed into a 230-pound adult. I weigh 230 pounds. I was once a minuscule egg and I transformed into a 230-pound adult. And I will go through more transformations and I will die. This is exactly how the universe works. At every scale, there are transformations happening. At the subatomic scale, atoms, the quantum scale, at the human scale, all the way up to the celestial scale. Stars. Stars are born. Stars act, they act with other stars, they interact with their environments, and then they eventually die. A star dying is called a supernova. The language of the universe is transformation. And the reason why modern day mathematicians and physicists could not solve this problem is because they were all looking for an equation. And the answer is not an equation, because an equation requires equality. Think of it like this: 1 plus 1 equal to 2. Or think of Einstein's equation, E equal to mc squared. The universe does not function, it's not governed by rules of equality. It's governed by rules of transformations. So we must go beyond equality to represent those transformations. And the infinity symbol that you put between the triangle and the circle solves it. So basically, the universe is governed by transformational rules. And this transformational rule can be represented symbolically as the triangle, the infinity, and the circle. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most powerful symbol in the world, the most powerful formula in the world that represents the language of the universe, the language of reality, and the language of nature. You can find my books on Amazon or on my website, newglobeutopia.com. Or you can find my papers online. You can read my papers where I go more in depth into this topic. But that, my friends, is the real truth. I'll see you soon.